Hello and welcome back to another episode of For Azeroth. As per the request of one of our hosts, we're going to switch things up. Introducing first, Sean. Hello, Sean. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing? Am I allowed to talk to you because you didn't introduce yourself? I don't know how this works. I'm doing good. Thanks. Thanks, Manny. I just didn't want to be sick. Well played, sir. Well played. I'll never involve myself in your introductions again. You do them as you see fit. And joining us as well, as always, from sunny area redacted, Lex. How are you, Lex?
Hello.
I almost said where you live.
You can say where I live. It's a big state. I mean, it's not. It's actually a very small state. But it's, you know, if
Sunny California.
So,
It's definitely not California, but sure.
oh God, no, I
You
don't have
haven't been
California
introduced yet,
money.
sir. You don't get to speak.
Yeah. I'm doing great, Sean. I'm watching the Olympics. I'm going crazy. Living my dreams. Supporting the good old fashioned US of A.
Have you seen any good, has there been anything in the Olympics that you've been like, wow, that was really impressive?
So, okay, first of all, obviously, I watched gymnastics. Pommel Horse Man is the king of the United States right now. For those of you who don't know,
He was asleep and then woke up.
yeah, he's so
Sorry,
good.
you're about to say that.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, the U.S. men's gymnastics team, they're like in the team version of the gymnastics, there's a ton of different events that you compete in, and like, you know, most people do pretty much all of the events or do multiple events at least, and each event is scored. The United States has this one guy whose name is escaping me, who is only on the team to do the pommel horse. He's really good at pommel horse. So like there was a countdown on the screen in America, at least it was like 2.5 hours that he was just sitting there while the rest of his team was like on the floor and on the beams and doing all this crazy stuff and vaulting and bouncing right along, and like everyone is doing a ton of different stuff. This man is sitting there. I think he was like meditating. I think he was supposed to be in the zone. But
He wasn't napping.
It looks very much like he's taking a little nap, taking a little sleepy sleep. And then this man finally gets to pommel horse, wakes up, and does a like near perfect routine. Like, and he's the reason that the United States won bronze for the first. I think it was the first time they medaled in. I don't remember if it's ever or just in a very long time. But men's gymnastics medaled for the first time, and then women's gymnastics, the team also medaled, but that was less surprising. Frankly, if they hadn't medaled, it would have been very surprising.
Yeah, that happens a lot, right? Isn't Simone Biles and those guys like they're all like legendary gymnastics people, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's another one. What's the one? There was another smaller girl. She broke her ankle or something one year.
Oh, I don't remember.
Anyway.
But I mean, the women's we medal very frequently, and especially now that we have Simone Biles, who is like, I think the most decorated Olympian, at least the most decorated gymnast ever. And just maybe, okay, Manny's making a face. I don't know if that's true. Maybe I should look that up. She's really good. Like Manny's
just upset that he's upset we're not talking about the Canadian swimmer Richard Funk.
Oh yeah, well, I just wanted to say I'm really proud of you guys. And
I'm
your
taking
7
back over
medals.
this intro because by now I had introduced both of you, and so you could all participate in the conversation. I'm sitting here being like, eventually they'll talk to me. Eventually I'll get introduced. Hi, everybody. My name is Manny, and I am the third co-host of this show. Welcome to For Azeroth. Yes, there are more than just two hosts and a guy who gets to say 2 words at the beginning of the show.
This is why you can't
Josh,
pass
you're off the intro.
posting intro information to anyone else.
Yeah, huge mistake.
There we go. But I am glad that you guys are enjoying the Olympics. I just hear about like the winning the medal and then testing positive like right afterwards. I'm like, of course.
Wait, for COVID or for drugs?
COVID.
Oh yeah.
COVID. Yeah.
I was like, that was the Russian team. We don't got to worry about that. They're not competing this. Sorry. If it was disrespectful.
They're not competing. Good grief.
I shouldn't have said that.
Okay.
We're moving on.
Well, with that aside, let's talk about last time on Azeroth Z. Because the World of Warcraft, when you logged in this week, you got a recap cinematic that covered events stretching all the way back from Legion. Right when Sargeras was like, I'm gonna stab this guy. I'm gonna stab this guy. Start from there. Some stuff that happened in BFA, because that's when the greater populace was introduced to Naifu Xal'atath. Bring us into like, hey, yeah, some stuff happened in Shadowlands. We're gonna skip past that though. And then into Dragonflight, and hey, now there's this Dark Heart, and there's some alliances going on, and really just catching up everybody who may have been not paying attention or otherwise engaged over the last little bit. And to me, it feels like Legion felt like the end of an era, and now we're really actually starting to push into like big things. So this is to prime everybody for the War Within and for the World Soul Saga in general. So I'm glad they did this. I think it is exactly the right time to do this. But I gotta ask you guys, what were your feelings about this? Let's start with you, Lex. I know you love the lore. What was your feelings about this cinema? Do I want to call it cinema? This video.
Yeah, I thought it was. I agree. I think it was really necessary because a ton has happened, and if you missed any of it, if you were like you would, if you were like a new player, which they're trying to pull in, you'd be incredibly lost. I will say, I was just thinking about like as we were talking, and I don't know how much it would, like if you're brand new, like you don't really know any of these names, but I guess it gives you a background. It gives you a place to start at. And I mean, World of Warcraft lore is 20 years old, as I learned. And so there's a lot that you can miss. Like there'd be a lot of information to pack into one last time on Azeroth Z. I did find it a little bit like they pulled from cutscenes that already existed, which meant that it was a mixture of cutscenes that are like beautifully, like there were like dragons flying, the early Dragonflight cutscene that was just like beautiful and like looked like a movie. And then there were also cutscenes that were just the game itself. I mean, it was a cutscene or a cinematic that existed to serve a purpose, not to be a particularly like mind-blowing cinematic. So like, yeah, in comparison to other Blizzard cinematics, would I watch it again? Not really. But it was, I think, the first time that Blizzard has done something like this, where they're like, here, let me just give you a quick recap, and then Anduin suffered, and then we met Xal'atath, and then Darkheart, and then he like just like ran you through it, and they did a pretty good job for a new style of cinematic. So I thought it served its purpose. Glad they had it. Thank you, Blizzard.
Okay, John, any thoughts?
I loved it. I thought it was great. Two big things that I took away from it. One, so as you mentioned, it played when you logged in, but it was also available as an option to play from every single quest giver in the short quest chain for the Radiant Echoes quest. There's like 5 quests you do. Every one of the people you talk to also gave you the option to replay the movie if for some reason something happened and you disconnected and missed it, or your audio bugged and stopped playing during it, or you randomly fell through the world in Silithus for 10 minutes. So if any of these things happen, I don't imagine these things would have happened to anybody, but if they did, you had the option to replay the cinematic in a lot of spots, and that's great. I really like that. I didn't have to go hunt it down on a YouTube. Had I had issues with it, I wouldn't have had to go hunt it down in a YouTube video, so that's great. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and so I'm going to preface this with, this is not the case. These things are planned so far in advance. Nobody is ripping out a cinematic in a weekend. But this cinematic came on the heels of a lot of people on Twitter saying, I'm not really, I don't really know what the story is. I don't really know where we're going. I don't really feel like the hype has been built properly story-wise for where we're at and what we're doing. And then this came out, and it was not. It was 100% not a direct response to like, hey, oh, sorry, there's people who need to be caught up. Here, let me just throw this together right quick. That's not how this works. This was planned and produced months and months ago, and then just aired when it was supposed to. But it was so timely, and it really... It makes me appreciate Blizzard's, not their foresight, but their ability to look at the content they're releasing and have a problem, have a solution for a problem that might exist based on what they're like. They're like, we're going to do this and this and this. What are the potential issues? This could be an issue. Okay, what's our solution? Well, it's this. And have it all planned out and prepared ahead of time. So I'm really impressed with that. And obviously, Taron Gregory's cinematic team, 10 out of 10. They're on the Christmas card list forever. Yeah, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a great time. I had referenced it as like a last time on Dexter, but then everybody else that I spoke to made the Dragon Ball Z reference, and then I was like, okay, that makes.
Yeah, no, that's the quintessential thing, especially since like half the last episode was just them charging up the fight. So
yeah,
I think that you guys are right. It's great timing when people are saying like, oh, I don't know anything about this, like how am I supposed to get into this? I was also thinking that we haven't seen any of those like 2.5D animations that we normally get. Remember we had Warbringers where we had the Jaina song that was like that's so hype. We had the Lord of the Clans back in Warlord's Day, which like was like, hey, you may not have been here for these like old warlords back when we were doing Warcraft 1 or 2 and that. So let's do that. And I think that would have been good, except it doesn't really do as much as this did. This was so good and concise of, here you go. Even if you don't know everything, you at least have enough to follow along. And I think that that's so solid here. It also reminded me of things that I was like, oh, wait, that's something that really we haven't had before. This is the first time it was put in this, which of course is a recap going back to when we first found out that the Harbinger was Xal'atath. Actually, we knew beforehand, but when the story first revealed that Xal'atath was the Harbinger, one of the things that was dropped was the first named Void Lord. And this video like made sure to drop that name again. And that made me just sort of go like, wait a second, like, is this going to be pretty big? So I think there's obviously going to be a bunch of people who are going to be dissecting this thing and being like, oh, this is big. I think that it's not going to be as much as normal because we also got another video that we're going to be talking about later on. But there's always something to be said about what they choose to highlight and include in these sort of videos, because it means that not only was it dropped like the first time, but they brought it back to be like, hey, remember this is a thing. So I really want to like go through this and be like, okay, so first named Void Lord, hey, the teacher, even though he was like there in the quest, they made sure that you remembered him, that they named him, and that sort of stuff, to be like, okay, is this clues beyond just like the obvious of like, here's a recap of where we're going to going next. And so I do think that I want to take some more time and dig through this as well. Can I just say one thing that made me go ahead?
Oh, I was going to say that's really true. I think one of the things that I always find, like, one reason I actually will usually skip in like TV shows, the like last time or like previously on whatever, is because like you can usually kind of piece together where the episode's going based off of it, because it's like, oh, they brought up this one conversation these two characters had about their uncle in Bermuda that I thought was filler, but clearly it's important because they decided to put it in. Yeah, so I hadn't really thought of it like that, but I think I kind of want to rewatch it now too. But sorry, Manny, you were saying.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Like, I think that's exactly what I was saying. The other thing that kind of bummed me out is that this is the first time they've used a new narrator voice. The old narrator passed away, and with this new narrator, I was just like, I kind of wanted them to find a sound alike, but they recast it. This is a good, like, I can't knock this performance. It was good. It didn't sound Warcraft because I'm so used to that old narrator that we've had from like the very character intros. And it wasn't like when they just use one of the people that they have on staff. Like for a long time, some of the narration was done by Josh Allen when he was there, but it wasn't an in-game one. It was just like hey, here's a survival guide of what's coming up and blah 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 blah. But like this is in-game, and it's the first time like that narration voice has really mattered. I don't know. Like it's just I guess I was the only one who really got who really took that note.
I couldn't tell you what the old voiceover guy sounded like. If you put a gun to my head right now and said, pick which one of these is the original Warcraft voiceover guy, I wouldn't be able to.
Now that you're saying this, Manny, I actually do think I know who you're talking. Like I know what you're talking about. I didn't realize that he'd passed away. It did feel maybe a little different. Again, I don't know that I would have noticed that it was a different narrator. Until you said that, so you ruined it for me, actually. Manny's out here destroying things. No,
You're the worst.
I hear what you're saying. I like the narrator of this one. And I can also imagine that like if they'd done a sound like, especially if this person had passed away recently, I can imagine that potentially feeling a little dicey, right? Like sometimes the best way to remember somebody is to say like they did this is them.
Yeah.
You'd
have people wondering if it was an AI recreation of the voice.
Yeah, all right.
True.
All right.
And
yeah,
then
okay.
that taints the cinematic.
All right. Well, it's there. We have it in the show notes for anybody who wants to look at it again with a more critical eye, or who wants to like hear the narration. But that was what led us into this week, where we got the pre-expansion event. And let's have Sean, let's have you deal with this. Now I'm pretty sure that this pre-expansion event did not take place in Old Hillsbrad, but tell me how your journey began and how you went through all of this.
Yeah, for sure. So I logged in on patch day. Servers came up, I want to say early. They were expected to come up at 11 a.m. Pacific, and I think they came up a little bit early. I logged in. I had logged out in Old Hillsbrad. Sometimes I go to the Caverns of Time just to vibe. You know, it's a good spot. I like it there. I logged in Old Hillsbrad. Hearthed to Valdraken because I thought I had to go there to get the quest. Turns out I already had the quest. Used my item to port to Silithus to do my short quest story. Fell through the world and disconnected for about 15 minutes in a never-ending loop of just pain and despair. And then finally got that sorted out. Did the quest chain. It's about 5 quests. In the middle of that quest chain, there's another cutscene with Manny. My audio bugged out, so I lost all dialogue audio. The fix to that is to, if that happens to you, if you're playing through it, if for some reason you're listening to this and you haven't played it yet, when Manny starts to talk to Azeroth, if your audio dialogue portion bugs out and you don't hear anything, you should. You can log out and log back in, and then the dialogue comes back, because not only does he talk, but like there's a stay a while and listen when there's talking. There's all this dialogue. Anyway, you're like all game dialogue bugged out at this point. I didn't realize, so I just let it go. I did the quest chain. It was short, but it was good. Introduces Dagran and Moira is there, and it's a good time. And then you get your, hey, go to the zone and do the quest for the Radiant Echoes. And the way the Radiant Echoes work, there are 3 different events in 3 different zones. So one is in Dragonblight, one is in Searing Gorge, and one is in Dustwallow Marsh. You go and on a set timer, so it's every 90 minutes, it cycles to a new one. You go to the spot when it starts. You have to do like first you kill one big slime. Then there's like, I think it's 6 mini events that have to be done, which are usually just kill mobs in this specific area of the map. Once they're dead, you go back to a quest point and you fight either the Lich King, Onyxia, or Ragnaros. Turn your quest in, get your 1.5k Radiant Echoes, and then just wait for the next zone. The gear it drops, or the gear you can buy from the vendor, is 480 item level. We were trying to figure out on stream today who this is for. It's 480 veteran track gear, because the weekly quests, so your soup, your great hunt, your researchers under fire, all those weekly events from all of the Dragonflight patches before that, drop between 480 and 493 gear when you do them. And everything's awakened now, so you can do them all every week, which there's like 12 things you can do, so you can almost get a full set of gear just from doing those. Yeah, I guess underwhelming is how I would describe it. And it's very laggy because there's so many people in the zone at once that it's basically a PowerPoint. And I have a brand new computer, so it's not my computer, but it's basically a PowerPoint slideshow. I gotta be honest, you should have chose Lex for this, because I was very underwhelmed with this event. The only saving grace is that the quest, it's a quest. It's a weekly quest to kill each boss in each zone. And that is able to be done by multiple characters. So you can cycle through your characters to get more done through the week. And anybody from level 10 up can do it. There are some people who are doing some min-maxing on it, like running it in chromie time because the bosses live longer because there's nobody there. So they're able to run 3 or 4 alts through a single event. Yeah. And that's it. Every week the timer gets shorter. So next week it'll get shorter by 30 minutes. So it'll be on a 60-minute rotation. And then the week after it gets shorter by 30 minutes again. One more time, it'll be on a 30-minute rotation. And it stays there for the final 2 weeks. Have you done it at all, Manny or Lex? Because it basically exists is what I can say about it.
I did it.
Go ahead, Lex.
Oh, sorry. Manny and I were talking over each other the whole episode. I did my first one literally right before this episode. So first of all, I now know for a fact that it takes 15 minutes to do the Radiant Echoes, which feels a little short. I kind of miss. Okay, I have a little bit of nostalgia glasses on for Legion's pre-expansion event because that's how I leveled my first character to max, right? So I was doing those significantly more than a normal person would. I will say the one thing I liked about it is I could just keep doing it, right? I think one thing that Manny and I have talked about a little bit on this show is we talked about it in an episode pre-Sean. I'm not trying to leave you out, Sean. World of Warcraft is trying really hard not to be grindy, which I appreciate, but every once in a while I kind of am like, you just want me to play the game, right? And I got that vibe a little bit with this too, like having a 15-minute event that I can only do every 90 minutes, which also I will say, I don't love the 90 minutes. Like if something's every 60 minutes, that's top of the hour. And so I just I can remember top of the hour, I go, right? Something's every 30 minutes, that's out top of the hour in 30 minutes. And so I can remember that and go. 90 minutes is weird because it bumps, right? Like it's first going to be like top of the hour and then an hour and a half. Like that is not ever going to just trigger in my head. I'm never going to look at the clock and be like, oh, it's 8. I forgot I can go do my Radiant Echoes now. Although I guess it's ongoing, so it doesn't super matter. Like I can just log in whenever and do them whenever I think of it. I thought it was fun. I kept going between when I logged in. I got confused and then I figured it out. And then I was like, oh, this is really fun. And then I was in Dragonblight and I was doing the tadpole memory thing. And it took so long. I kept opening the tadpoles and they're and everyone, a ton of people were there and it was taking forever. I don't know if they expected more. Anyway, so then I was like, okay, well now this is a little bit too long. And then it was oh, go find this person, but they didn't tell me where to find the person. And so I was like, well, now I'm confused again. And then it was go kill the Lich King. And then we were done. So I thought there were moments when I was doing it that I was like, oh, this is actually great. Right. Like, this is so cute. And this reminding me of like early World of Warcraft and like the things that I loved about it. And I'm seeing all this stuff that like is really nostalgic for me. And then something would kind of drag a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay. But also it felt a little short. So who knows? I don't think this is going to go down in history as one of my favorite pre-expansion events. But it's also like, it's not terrible, right? It's not like I'm offended that they thought that this would be a good opening to War Within. I think it's just there. What do you think, Manny?
Oh, geez. Okay. People are complaining mostly about the time. I don't care because it's a worthless event in my opinion. It is the absolute quintessential grind fest. I'm going to do things to get currency, to get what I want, to get stuff that is 480 gear, which doesn't matter. There's no variety in it. I'm running to places to defeat things that they're reusing models. Like, it's just, there's nothing redeeming about this pre-patch event. And if it happens every 5 seconds, I wouldn't care. It's just, people want stuff on a vendor, so it's on a vendor, which means that they have to space it out in terms of how fast you can acquire it. Which created they could have done it as a scenario where these particular memories meant something, and you had a bit of story where it's like, oh, this is because this was an event and this was an event, and then you do all 3 events, and having done all 3 events, regardless of how they show up, you're done with the patch. And whether it shows up every 90 minutes, and I'm like, okay, which one is this coming up? Okay, I want to be online for that. That would be something for me, because I'd go for the experience once and be done with it. But jumping from one area to another area to another area in a zone that I've been to a million times to fight stuff that I've done already, to get a fresh coat of paint on a wyvern model or some I think the biggest thing that you can get out of this is the heirloom that you can piece together over the course of doing this. And so, do better, Blizzard. Like, they've done so much with the experimental modes of Mist of Pandaria Remix, of the Plunder Storm, and so to me, a pre-patch event is a great time to experiment because it's going to be there for a limited time anyways. And this was the most dialed in, uninspiring thing. And so, yeah, I haven't done it yet. I did it on the PTR, so I have experienced it. I'm not saying this blindly, but like, it's live now, and I'm like, yeah, I got other things that I want to do with my time. And I've had people who are saying, oh, the 90 minutes is stressful because, similar to what you're saying, Lex, oh, it's over so fast, and then I have to wait 90 minutes, and maybe that doesn't work for you because 90 minutes is now dinner time or taking care of your kids or whatever real life thing that you have to deal with. But to that, I say, like, what are you after out of this? Does any of this actually matter? You're going to replace every piece of gear in the next month or 2 months, however long it takes you to level, right? I guess if you're a pet collector or a mount collector, and that point, it's the same thing with the FOMO of the trading post, where people are like, I can't get everything, so all of this sucks, and it's like, I don't know, prioritize, I guess.
Yeah,
I do. So obviously, none of us are super happy about the event. There are 3 things I would like to point out as being positives in the event itself. Number 1 is there is a portal to each of the 3 zones in Dalaran, so you don't have to like fiddle fuck and find. You don't have to mess around and find your way to the zone. You just go there and you port there. So that's one thing that is great. I love that. Makes it easy. Number 2, above each portal, there is text that tells you how long that portal is active for. So when Dragonblight is active, giant yellow text appears above the portal that says this will be active for 1 hour, 40 minutes, or whatever, however long it is.
certainly not.
That's
that
great.
long.
There's no guessing. Yeah, no, so 1 hour, 20 minutes. And then when you port there, if you port there early, like I do, and you go straight to the spot where you're going to have to kill the boss, like I do, and you're waiting there ahead of time, there's text that says, this boss will spawn in 15 minutes at this zone. All three of those things are great. And I also special shout out to the quest being available on all tunes from level 10 and up, the weekly quest, because that will allow you to hopefully get the Radiant Echoes faster without having to do the mindless grind. Because once the boss is dead, you can grind on the mobs in the area for more echoes after the fact, but you get like 1 to 5 per enemy kill. It's, if you're doing that, I guess you're doing
What's the experience gain? Because you were asking,
you get a lot of,
what is this for?
Experience gain's pretty high for characters leveling up.
So if I have like a level, let's say 60 something, right? And I'm like, okay, I want to get it to 70 so I can go into the next expansion. I could use this to level. And then as soon as I'm done leveling, boom, immediate bunch of 480 gear, then go do all the events like you were saying to further increase it. And I'll feel pretty good. I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah, except it's good experience once every 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to level a character, you can level it faster in any other way.
Couldn't you just queue for dungeons in between the stuff?
You could. Yeah, you could. But then if you're, so queuing for dungeons would be faster experience. The issue with waiting at the spot to tag on boss while queuing for dungeons for experience, because you're going to hit a point where it's 15 minutes to the event. So do I queue for a dungeon and maybe miss the event, or do I wait the 15 minutes to get the experience from the thing, and then I've lost the experience? It's just faster to just spam dungeons. It's so it's not even a good leveling avenue. And in all honesty, if you're leveling a character right now, do it in Remix. Delete whatever retail character you have and just restart it in Mop Remix. It's 2 hours. You'll go from 10 to 70 in the time it takes for one rift.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
This is, yeah. I agree. I think I had a thought, which is maybe a little bit unfair of me, to kind of go off of Manny's point about like all of the creative stuff that they're doing in other, like with the Pandaland and Plunderstorm and things. And one of the things that I thought while I was looking at like what this, like even before I played, so again, I was being a little bit potentially unfair, is that I wonder if one of the reasons that this is kind of milquetoast is because they, like, obviously they have a limited staff, right? And so there's a limited amount of creativity that you can realistically expect in any given period of time. And I would like the World of Warcraft team to remember that, like, I love that they're doing creative stuff. I love that they're playing around. That's great. I pay for World of Warcraft, right? And so, like, if the choice is giving me Plunderstorm or pulling the people off of Plunderstorm and giving me a really great War Within pre-patch event, I would rather the pre-patch event, right? Like, I think that's one of the reasons that, like, and again, maybe I'm being unfair. I don't know why they made the decisions they did. I don't know why this is what, like, maybe they didn't. Maybe people have been sitting around on their thumbs doing nothing. I don't think so, from what I've heard from people in Blizzard. But, like, maybe, right? Maybe it wasn't an issue of, like, where resources were being delegated. But I think it felt a little bad to me to see the Blizzard team or the World of Warcraft team do all of this creative stuff, but then kind of drop the ball on the content that I actually wanted, you know?
Yeah, they raised the bar. What's happened. Like they've raised the bar, and good on them for raising the bar. This fell short of it because it is much closer to what they've done in the past, and that doesn't quite feel like it's up to the standards that they've been delivering on. So good on the team for actually causing that to be a thing. The last thing I would like to look at is kind of pull it back to our previous story. We had this like catching you up sort of cinematic that it was pulling from these various moments. It would be cool if the memories were, hey, here's a scenario of this important moment. Play through like a scenario version of when Xalatath was released and when this happened and when this happened. and then make the player be in that moment, even if it's with like a, I don't know, infinite dragon that's like, oh, this disturbance, I need to take you here and here and here to see it. I think that like that might be something closer. Like they've shown that they do amazing scaling stuff with the Mr. Pandaria remix, and maybe if they've got a system built off of that, they could do something like that in the future.
Just give me a Night Fae recap play.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I would like that. I don't think every patch thing needs to be a entire system of like, let's try and get people geared up faster, because as you're saying, Sean, it looks like all of that has already been covered with things they already have in the game. Mm-hmm. So now they can focus this more on a special function. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any last thoughts, or shall we step to our next story? Looks like you guys are good. So before we do that, though, let me just actually no. Let's handle the Shadows Beneath first, okay? Because that is the other cinematic that showed up. Now, the Shadows Beneath is the official cinematic for the War Within. This is the thing that showed us like full CGI glimpse of where we're going to be going as we delve deep into, and it was all the underground zones. There was no above ground. They really were trying to go with like the deep delving here. We had the close up of some, again, what I believe are going to be some very important characters. We had showed them like the various places. And then it kind of wrapped up with like the enemies. So we had the like going towards that creepy tunnel, and if you look, you could see the little creepy crawlies just crawling up and down on the sides, kind of framing it. And then you have like this silhouette, and the arms start to outstretch. And I am sorry for anybody who has that arachnophobia. This was fully playing on it. But then we are introduced to Queen Ansarek, and she is experimenting in front of what looks like a old god tentacle. I have suspicions. Like it's something. Like there's like, it might not be an old god itself, because there were like different ligaments that were connected to the old gods that weren't specifically old gods. But she was experimenting on something.
Could it be a corrupted root to a world tree?
It's fleshy. Like, does the curse of flesh work on trees? I don't know. There's something. There's speculation. I will tell you my speculation, but I've been hogging this. Tell me what your thoughts were. Sean, you just started. Let's have you start.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Blizzard. How dare you? Who do you think you are, releasing this at midnight on a Friday? I was in bed. God damn it. And before bed, I like to flip through Twitter. I like to check Twitch. I usually find a nice, cozy stream to put on and listen to while I lull away to Dreamtown. And then I got a little notification. I have very few notifications turned on my phone, but one of them is for the Warcraft Twitter team, because those people put out straight fire. And I look, oh my goodness, what is this? Whirlwind of Emotions. I love that earthen, that anvil, the big sound. Oh my God, so good. I am ready to die for Fair and Lothar. I will go to war for her today, right now, in this moment. That scene of her armoring up, incredible. The Heronir, if that doesn't become a playable race, I will revolt. I want to make a Heronir, and then the pan in and the cut through was just like the big structure that looks almost like an egg on top of the. I love how the Nerubian structure is so similar to the necropolises that we see from the undead. I really like that you can see that parallel. This cinematic this was like, anyway, I was up till 2. Thanks, Blizzard. It was so good. It was so good. Oh my God. To get the extended, we got the glimpse. Sorry, Lex, I'll stop here in a second. We got the glimpse of the Heronir doing her like avatar dance in the previous trailer, but then to get to like the full, like she's crawling in on all fours and she's like looking at the little dangly bit that was supposed to be bigger than it is. And it was just really well done. And, she coaxes the energy out of it and makes it dance. Oh my God. So good. So good. 10 out of 10. No notes. Taryn Gregory, I will send you 2 Christmas cards. And I know Taryn doesn't do these alone. He's not like by himself, just wizarding these together. So cards for the team as well. That's it.
Okay. Lex.
Yeah, it's good. I really liked it too. I didn't do a super deep dive into like what it was telling me because I was in it for the vibes, and the vibes are incredible. I'm hype as hell. I was losing my mind watching it. I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful. It's stunning. World of Warcraft has always had incredible cinematics, but recently just the quality is I'm like better than most movies. Like the skills that these people have is blowing my whole mind. Yeah, it was amazing. I cannot wait for the War Within. I'm in love. Zalatath, I will sell out Azeroth for you. Hit me up, babe.
Okay. All right. Well, there were people, obviously, people generally loved it. There were some people who had some criticisms. So let me throw some criticisms that I heard to be devil's advocate here and see what you think about them. One of the most repeated ones that I had come across was because of the darker tone, how dark it was. And people were like, oh, it doesn't feel like Warcraft. It almost feels more like Diablo. So what's your thoughts towards that criticism?
It's the trauma expansion. This is a PTSD expansion. It's going to be sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many of the people who said, oh, this darker tone doesn't feel like Warcraft have also said, I wish Warcraft had more war?
I don't know about that Venn diagram.
I don't know. I just feel like Dragonflight was too light. Oh, it's too happy. It's too light. I don't feel like there's war in this one. And now they go darker. Oh, it's too dark. I don't want it so dark. Can we find somewhere in the middle? And I get it. It did have Diablo-esque vibes to it. The art style, the feel of it, sort of the music, the tone, all of it. It could have you could have said, hey, this is a Diablo trailer, and I would have believed you. Farron Lothar could be a Crusader. I love her. I'll kill you. But yeah, I mean, everybody has different tastes, right? Maybe you don't want a darker theme. Maybe you like when your games are lighter and have an easier touch. And those are valid criticisms. Like, that's not like, you can't really contradict somebody's opinion. It's their opinion. But I'm glad that Lex nailed it. Like, it's the trauma expansion. You know what I mean? We're going in to deal with PTSD with Anduin. We're going to deal with Hilaria's trauma that she has. Zalatath was locked in a fucking dagger. Sorry. Zalatath was locked in a dagger for who knows how long. Like, that's going to mess you up. You know what I mean? Unlimited cosmic power, itty-bitty living space. That's not going to fly. So I guess I don't have anything to say to that, because if you don't like dark trailers, you're not going to, it's okay. You don't have to like it. That's cool.
Do you think there's a point where World of Warcraft could be too dark or stay dark too long? We are in the first of a trilogy. If they're starting this dark, the next one's midnight. I can't imagine that's going to be light and carefree, right? Do you think they need to break it up somehow? And how would they do that?
You end with a glimmer of hope. So you do, Star Wars, the original trilogy was great at this. A New Hope was fantastic. It's, at the end of it, you feel, hey, we've overcome, we've vanquished. And then Empire comes out, and Empire ends on a very dark, a very down, a very somber tone. You could basically just mimic that, right? Like, if you can't think of something better yourself, just steal somebody who did it best. So we're going in, it's dark, end on a glimmer of hope. Hey, things are looking good. We're doing okay. We're feeling good about this. Midnight hits. We're going back to Silvermoon. We've rebuilt Silvermoon. We rebuilt the Exodar. The Draenei finally have a home. We're ending on a glimmer of hope. We're going into midnight, and then let midnight end, with us feeling like shit. They're making another Death Star. You know what I mean? Oh my God, Zalatath is my mommy. Like, she cuts off my hand and I'm all messed up. So anyway, yeah, you definitely you don't want to stay dark too long. I didn't find the trailer to be that dark. I find Farron Lothar to be, she is that light. You know, she's that light in the darkness when all of the lights fail. She's the lamplighter. She is the beacon. I will follow her. So to me, there is no darkness when she's on the screen. You know what I mean? She's holding it back through sheer force of will. And the heroine here, it looks like they're in tune with Azeroth. They are the protectors of Azeroth's soul, of the roots of the world tree. Like, and so even for them, it's like the darkness is encroaching, but they're fighting it back. So I didn't find it to be that dark. And the Nerubians obviously are terrifying.
Personally,
you can say. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say personally, I think it should get darker because I'm selling Azeroth out to Peloton. I'm really in an interrupting mood today. That's my bad.
No, that's okay. I get it. You're a void-filled vengeance dealer, and you're allowed to interrupt.
Well, okay. Well, Lex, while we've got you the mic here, what's your opinions on like how they can do the darkness and everything? Like, do you feel that we can get much darker, as you were saying, or like how do you accomplish that and still don't make it too gloomy?
I guess I feel like personally I appreciate the World of Warcraft is taking itself more seriously. I do think that like to some degree that's been a little bit of a issue I've had with like historical lore, is that they're like trying to tackle dark, intense stuff, but like they kind of don't want to be too much into it, and so they try to like put their foot on both sides of the line. What that kind of means is that like when they're trying to be emotional, it doesn't really hit, and when they're trying to be lighthearted, it just feels like tacky. To a degree, right? I think there's been a lot of really good lore and story and entertaining parts of World of Warcraft. So I don't necessarily know that I'm overly concerned it's going to be too dark. Frankly, I think that this is probably like they've spent the last 20 years just traumatizing the living hell out of these characters, right? Like just putting them through the paces like nobody can believe. And so I think that if they're going to like try to wrap up these stories, there's a point at which they do kind of need it to be emotional and real. Otherwise it feels silly. So I guess maybe I'm and to be fair, I really like Dragonflight, but like there were a couple moments in Dragonflight that I kind of felt like I was in a after school special, right? Where I was like, oh, the friends we made along the way, which is fine. You're allowed to be an after school special. It's an MMO. They're allowed to be silly. It's not the end of the world. But I don't know. I personally, I think that, I mean, so long as they don't go like lost.jpg levels of like Grimdark, where everything is just edgy and out of nowhere, this fun game has just become like the world is hell and nobody is ever happy and we all suffer. And I have spent every waking minute sobbing. Like, I think that if they keep hope in it, which has always been kind of World of Warcraft's way, is that everything is hopeful and everything has there's always the light, right? There's always something you're going for. So I'm not really afraid that they're going to lose that. So long as they don't go full grimdark, I think that it's good that they're really feeling the feelings and they're really letting us experience the darkness personally.
Okay. Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I also feel that they've been very strategic about how they've gone through stuff. Like there's only one zone that's really dark in my opinion. And the fact that the main city is up on a very bright place means that like in between you're spelunking down into these things, you're always returning to this lighter, warmer environment. So I like the cinematic is meant to sell where we're going. And as you guys were saying with like the Star Wars thing, like you do need to like get these stakes rolling. And Dragonflight was really just a palate cleanser so that like it doesn't feel like we went from Shadowlands to more pain. So I think Dragonflight is part of what makes this darker tone work because of that contrast. Now we do have a iTunes thank you that I would love for actually Lex, if you could take this one.
Absolutely. This is from Adam T. Jones. Was I can say that, right? I'm not doxing somebody.
Yeah, they put their full name out on the internet.
We love it. Hi, Adam. Sorry.
Well, let's celebrate the fact that you pronounced it correctly.
What?
I think that's celebration number one.
Yeah, no, you're right. I didn't need any help. I didn't say like, oh, that was wrong, and then try again multiple times. You're right, Sean. You're right. Adam, this is special for you. That's the real shout out here. Adam says,
question how many times Adam has had his name mispronounced, but sure.
But also I want to be clear that Adam and I are on a first name basis now. I don't know, maybe I should call him Jones. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones.
Anyway, he says, listen up, besties, because I'm about to tell you about this show in my non-salty manifesto. I look forward to this notification every week because these guys are so dang fun to listen to. Lex, Manny, and Sean have great chemistry and knowledge on a wide range of topics in Azeroth and IRL. The show always puts a smile on my face with its fun antics and tangents. Can't wait to dive into the War Within soon with y'all. I love y'all. Adam, we love you too. You always put a smile on our face. You have great knowledge on a wide variety.
I want a specific example of when Adam put a smile on your face before this message.
Well, I'm glad. First of all, I don't know if I know Adam. Like, if this man's like in the, if Adam is in the Discord, I could give examples. I don't know. Because I doxed him for the first time. He hasn't been doxed before. I think the existence of the beautiful fans who we love and support. But actually, I'm coming across as facetious because I'm in a jokey mood. But genuinely, the fact that you guys let us make this silly little podcast and listen to it and talk about it and let us talk in the Discord and let us talk on Twitter and give us all of these beautiful, amazing spaces to chat with people and connect with people is incredible. It's genuinely amazing. And I know it sounds cliche and silly, but you guys bring so much joy and light in supporting us and in engaging with us. And thank you guys. We have incredible fans and we have an incredible community. And Adam, if you're not in the Discord, you should be in the Discord. It's a great Discord. But yeah, we have a really beautiful community that makes this wonderful. And they put a smile on my face all the time.
Wow, I dug a hole and you made something great out of it. Thanks. Thank you, Lex. Okay.
I'm offended that you think that Lex and I wouldn't be able to give you an example of a time that Adam made us both smile prior to this moment. I remember when the three of us sat down to have a drink one night to discuss the future of the show and where we thought it should go. We just, we threw out some feelers to some listeners, and Adam was like, "Hey, I have some thoughts on what we could do for this intro piece at the beginning." And, his suggestion was that we stop making Sean go second. We thought we'd action that. And, yeah.
And then he tried to not introduce Manny at all.
We just completely removed Manny.
To grab back the reins.
That was Adam's idea,
well,
Manny. Unfortunately, kick him off.
Oh, I see. Well, thanks for the 5-star review, Adam. We will never speak again. That said, I haven't learned from my mistakes because I'm going to pass it over to Sean to talk about the next bit of news here.
Oh boy. That's beta notes. New news. We got lots of notes for the beta this week. Some notes that came out early in the week by Linksy. She popped out and said, "Hey, we're going to give you some notes ahead of the new beta build to prep you and get some feedback." I liked that because she specifically said, she was like, "We're going to give you the notes ahead of time for early feedback." Basically, we're going to give you this to chew on for a little bit so you guys can get all riled up and then get in there and test it. Now I think they're doing it just to watch us froth at the mouth. But these notes were great. universally loved by everybody except elemental shamans. Tank damage buffed across the board. So tanks, everybody got a damage buff. As a completely unbiased tank player, the game is better when tanks do more damage. When tanks are having fun, the game is more enjoyable. So that's a huge buff. A nerf that came in that I think I won't say everybody, but I think a lot of people wanted was to augmentation evokers. Solving the augmentation puzzle is something that Blizzard is working with. They're still trying to figure it out. As a community, I don't think anybody even has offered like a full, hey, here's a great solution for how to fix it. But one of the steps that they did was to remove closest clutch mates, which is a passive ability that used to make Ebb and Might stronger in 5-man content. The thought being in a raid, you're buffing 4 DPS, but in a dungeon, you're only buffing 2 DPS and then a tank and a healer. So closest clutch mates raised it. By removing
just
that
Ebb and
buff,
Might, right? It was another ability.
Ebb and
too,
Might
wasn't it?
and Eon's Breath, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
By removing that buff in 5-man content, you level the playing field a bit to where augmentation might not be a mandatory play in dungeons. If we're at the point that, and I don't think we will be by the time, but I'm going to call it now, July 31st, 9:31 p.m. in Atlantic, Canada. By the end of season 1 of The War Within, we will not be in a state when the thing that determines how high keys can be pushed is one-shot mechanics from the mobs. It'll be a point where the key cap is determined by how much you can pull and how fast you can clear the dungeon, which is where everybody wants it to. And we will be there because we're going to talk about some tuning in a minute. But they removed that buff. They also tweaked the buff that Ebb and Might gives. And I think it's good. I think it's healthy. And hopefully it sort of addresses that issue that people have been having. As well, there were some other things noted. And this is important. You're going to want to listen to this part because this was reported and then changed. And one thing was clarified and then another thing was removed. So this is the most, again, July 31st, 9:32 p.m., Atlantic, Canada. This is the most up-to-date note we have on this. Mythic track in The War Within has 6 upgrade levels as opposed to 4 that it has now, to a cap of 639. So that was reported. That is accurate. That is staying. What was misreported, I won't say misreported, but what was reported and concerned about was the state of crafted items. Blizzard released a statement saying that the intention is for crafted items to go up to 636. So the power of crafted items in War Within Season 1 will be the same equivalent as it is in Dragonflight Season 3. It's 1 item level lower than the cap from Mythic Track. So that's good. That's good news. And then there was a change where they had initially said they were going to cap end of dungeon loot from Mythic Plus at 1 of 6 hero track, which would have meant at the end of a +7, a +8, a +9, and a +10, you get a piece of equipment that is only ever going to be 1 out of 6 hero track. That has been removed from the notes. That is no longer the case. So that should go back to scaling similarly to how it does now, is my guess. How it will scale is the guess part. The fact that the cap has been removed is fact. And then the last major buff that I think is huge, and I'm actually surprised that it wasn't this way. After reading this, my brain was like, oh, why wasn't it always this way? Like, this just makes so much sense. So good on Blizzard for making this change preemptively. The last 2 raid bosses not only drop 15 crests of the current level that you're doing, but they also drop 15 crests of the next level that you would get. So I'll use Dragonflight terms because those are ones we're all used to. We're not used to using the gilded terms yet. So when you kill the final 2 bosses in Heroic Raid, you get 15 Worm Crests and 15 Aspect Crests from each boss. So 30 and 30 total if you kill both. That change just makes so much sense, right? Like, does that not... Lex, can you believe we lived this long without that?
No. Frankly, if you told me that it existed already and I just didn't remember, I'd be like, yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And then one last big note from those beta note changes is they explained how the buff was going to work. So we had in interviews, they were saying there's going to be a stacking buff that accumulates over time. It starts 1 month in. It's done by completing a weekly quest. If you don't start right away, it's a catch-up mechanic, much like if you think of the Helm enchant from Mirdrasil. If you miss the first week, it's okay. You can the rising cap and you get them faster, so on and so forth. And it's warbound, but it's a damage done and a healing done buff to a cap of 18%, which will help teams clear the raid faster. Not only will it help teams clear the raid faster, it helps some teams clear the raid at all, and it also helps teams that have cleared the raid farm faster, which is something they want. It's an all-around win. There's no way you can complain about this. And those are the beta notes. I think I covered them all, Manny. I don't know if I was supposed to bogart the mic for that long, but I was really excited about every week the beta notes come out, and it's kind of like a little mini Christmas for me. I've had so many mini Christmases in the last 2 months. It's been great.
Have you sent a card every
I'm
time?
gonna be so sad when it's done. Have I said what every time?
Have you sent the card though? Because you keep promising Christmas cards. And you send Christmas every week.
I've not. Yeah, I've not sent a Christmas card every time. I guess I'm behind.
Get it together. Yeah, you gotta catch
sort
up.
that out. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've seen a lot of people who are like, augmentation evoker is dead. This is it. Nobody's going to use them anymore. I think people are still thinking back in Dragonflight terms. The reason that this nerf makes way more sense now than it did previously is that tank survivability matters more, and augvokers in Mythic Plus are actually buffing tanks. Healers and their throughput matters more, and augs are buffing healers, where in a raid they're specifically preferring to buff DPS, so it's less of a thing there. The changes that they've made are right in line with lowering the defensive abilities of tanks, the defensive abilities of tanks, and lowering the effective healing of healers, right? If you left augment, they kind of undo some of those changes in the groups that they're in, which just makes them more necessary. And the last thing about the augmentation is that, like, you've said it before on the show, Sean, augmentation evokers are either godly in the right hands and just decent for people, or they're decent in the right hands and just trash for most people. And I'm going to tell you, I've played with some people who have done an augmentation, and they've been in Mythic, and they've been in Mythic Plus, but I don't think I've ever played with people who have maximized augmentation as far as it can go. That requires a level of coordination that most people do not experience. And I think augmentation is still going to be an issue until they fundamentally go under the hood and adjust some things.
Make them tanks.
I was going to say make the buff just either flat, so it doesn't matter on lining it up with cooldowns, or make it hit random people so that you can't do that kind of coordination. Then it becomes less of a coordination thing, which is what creates that huge delta. Anyways, I'm excited to see where things go. I think that this buff also had to happen, or rather this nerf also had to happen when you're handing out. I think the minimal buff I saw to tank damage was like 10 or 15%, and it went up from there. And you don't do that, then plus add 10% from closest clutch rates, plus then add an additional 8% from like where it was before. It's just like, geez, like anytime tank damage goes up, I guess you buffed the aug as well in Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
Oh yeah, tank buffs are buffs for augs. That's a good point. Everybody's buffed. I told you, everyone's happier when tanks do damage.
Yeah, well, not this is actually one specific place where the Augies are not happy when tanks do damage, because they get nerfed. Tanks do damage, and they're the one person suffering.
True.
We'll see. I think they will find a place. They got the hero talents. I think that they're shifting more of augmentation into being able to deliver on its own with the bonus of augmenting. And right now with the way things are in balance, I think that's kind of the way you need to go. Or you just need to have like 12 additional buff classes that are fighting over spots. With that said, We've talked about how much augmentation has affected Mythic Plus, but Mythic Plus has gotten some more changes. So I've handed stuff to Lex, I've handed stuff to Sean. I'll take care of this last bit myself here. Mythic Plus got an additional article that covered changes specifically about Keystone Dungeons. We have a new affix going in the rotation for Xal'atath's Bargain, and that is Devour. So this affix works that while you're in combat, Xal'atath tears open a rift that devours the essence of players. Basically, over 15 seconds, this rift gets stronger and heals enemies. Then, if you're able to have the rift collapse, if it's dispelled, or if players are healed for enough, it grants all players critical strike and max health for a period of time. This is weird.
It's afflicted.
It's kind of afflicted.
Afflicted.
I also don't like that it's another healer affix, like kind of.
100%
Like
healer
we
affix.
were just getting away from. Huh?
It's 100% healer. It's afflicted. It's literally just afflicted, but you get crit when you do the dispel now. Crit
No,
now.
like okay, other classes can dispel. It like other classes have vampiric or other stuff to heal to help the healer in this place. If you're a shaman and you start using ancestral guidance to work off of this, then you're still doing damage. Don't have to change your rotation pretty much at all, and still work towards this. So there's ways that people can help rather than with afflicted where you had to turn and help and go off your rotation.
Well,
it's not quite afflicted.
I see your other classes have dispels, and I raise you. Everybody could have killed explosives, and whose job was it?
I know. I know.
Okay, but
this is why I don't like it, because it's so focused on healer. Sorry, go ahead. Thanks.
I actually, as a healer, I would want to look at numbers. I'd want to look at tuning before I make a statement. I'm not overly fussed by this because it gives me a back door, which is just heal the hell out of my team. Right? Like if I either have my dispel on cooldown or I forget or I'm just overwhelmed. Like I think that's a really good backdoor, because one of the things that's most frustrating about healer affixes is that if you are in a situation where your team is dying and then like they're also like you have to go run around and you have to use all of your GCDs to deal with the explosives, or you have to go like put down like dispel this thing or go do that, and like you were like, but my team is dying. This affix actually makes it so you can like if your team is dying, great. You did the affix, right? Pop a cooldown. You're done. You're good. Clean. Done.
Yeah. I mean, if your team is dying, you use one global dispel and you give everybody battle shout. 10% extra health.
Yeah, there you go.
It works on it either way.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, but it's afflicted. It's it's okay.
What did afflicted do when you
if you didn't dispel
successfully dealt with it?
Nothing. It just didn't do its thing. It's bad thing.
Yeah,
so we get the bonus.
So this says kiss curse. So
Yeah.
at least the kiss helps a bit to allow healers to be like, okay, I need to focus on healing, so I'm gonna pop cooldowns and heal, and then they'll get the extra health on top and a crit.
Yeah.
Right. Or
and like Lex mentioned, I think too is important. If you've used your dispel, because there are times when you got to use your dispel, right? You use your dispel. This also has a 15-second cast timer. You have 15 seconds to do it. So even if you used your dispel just before it spawned, you'd be able to dispel it again before the cast time was done.
I have a question for people who are better at reading notes than me. The first part says Xal'atath tears open rifts with an S. And then it says the rift with a T unleashes its energy after 15 seconds. Are there multiple rifts that
multiple
open?
times she will open one rift.
Okay, gotcha.
At a time.
We're so down. We're so back. We're so back.
She will continuously open rifts. There will only be one rift open active at a time.
Oh, then I mean, to be fair, it has a back door, but like, I mean, assuming that she's not casting it every 15 seconds, you're gonna dispel it, right? Like it's.
I mean, like your dispel could be being used on some sort of mechanic in the dungeon at the time. So you're like, okay, I have to use the spell on this. I'm sorry. I've like the only other way is to heal, right?
Yeah, but it's fair that I keep forgetting that some of you guys don't have dispel and also mass dispel, so you guys have to only have one spell.
Oh, I've got so many ways to dispel. I'm a priest. I need you to kick this cast, please.
It's also not a binary fail state, though. Like,
no, I mean, I guess if you don't dispel it. You just extend the combat with that pack because it's going to heal them all.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
Yeah.
And I think because it's healing the pack, yeah, but I feel because it's healing the pack, your team is going to be more invested in like oh, I was just trying to DPS. It's like, yeah, but you're effectively doing less than if you had turned and done that. Like in a coordinated team. I know in the pug world, people are going to be like, I don't need to use any of my CC or utility. That's the other person's job, and I'm not going to put on my bars. And you know what? That's the pug life. So be it. However, right, the fact that it's not a binary fail state, that it could go on for a little bit, that it is constantly in people's faces of bars not going down as quickly as it's going up, maybe I should do something about it, might be the push people need to be like, hey, you know what? I could be more effective here. Like, it is in your face. It's not like oh, it went off. Who should have done that? Right? And I know that there are going to be people who are going to be stubborn, and those people will exist. This thing could be a DPS mechanic, and people will just blame another DPS. This thing could be a tank mechanic,
oh my God,
and people would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? This could be a tank mechanic, and the tanks would be like, I was too busy, DPS, use a cooldown and deal with it. There's always going to be somebody else to blame, and I can't ask the designers to take all that into account.
No.
But there's so much that pushes the behavior in the right direction for this that I don't want to say it's strict afflicted. It's like afflicted, but afflicted 3.0.
It's afflicted coded.
Oh, sorry. I'm reading. I
Like-
really should have read this before we did the show, and I didn't really read. I thought I did, but I didn't. I am interested in the fact that players receive enough healing as a backdoor to get this done. Then also it heals them up to maximum health. So like, who's wasting their mana healing the party? I think this is sorry. I interrupted because I got excited because I read the notes. I don't fully understand the backdoor now. I think that this is going to be a dispel mechanic.
So like you're in a fight, right? You primarily want to dispel it. That seems like the most efficient way of going about it. However, you're taking damage. It's a big boss fight. You're taking damage. Rather than be torn between the two, your backdoor is, I need to focus on healing, and because you do enough healing in that period of time, you automatically shut down the rift, increase everybody's maximum HP because it's still a damage event if you did it in the period of time, right?
Oh,
and now people are in a safe spot, right? And you didn't need to switch focus on this rift.
sorry.
I
Wait,
think you still dispel. You use the global to dispel to give them the extra health. And you increase. You won't just increase their max health. Their health will go up by that amount as well. Yeah. It'll work the same as rally.
Okay. Fair. I misread. I thought that you were getting to
after
max
the
health.
fact.
Yeah.
Like if it's a rally, because like rally is that like increases your maximum health, and then the health that you're currently at by that same amount.
Yeah, and then when it falls off, you lose it. So it's a DR. It's just a DR. So you use it. You get that DR benefit from it, and then once it's gone, it's gone. But the healers have to have you topped up by then. So in this case, in the situation that we're describing, where heavy damage happening to the party for whatever reason, this thing spawns. That's actually a savior to a healer. That's like, oh shit, right on, I got a free rally. If you're going to dispel, everybody's health is going to go up, I'll say 10%. We don't have any numbers. That's a guess. Please, if this comes out and it's not 10%, don't write a bunch of hate mail before Azeroth. And if you do, it's spelled TRUVILLAINMANNY.
That is actually my email. Thanks a lot.
Well, I didn't tell them it was at yahoo.com. So then you're going to dispel, everybody gets that health bump up, they get a free rally, so to speak, and then you're going to jump into your, okay, I'm doing my frantic divine hymning or whatever it is that I'm doing to bring people's life up, feathering and running in a circle and clapping while I mass dispel.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, actually, the more I think about this, I kind of wish they made it a little more interesting. Spelling a crit strike and max health, like that's easy. Give me something. That is going to be the least popular take I've ever made, and quite frankly, if they do that, I will probably whine about it unendingly on this podcast. I'd like to make that clear. Yeah. I know that I'm wrong about this, but I do kind of wish they'd make it a little more exciting.
Okay.
John hates me.
We'll see.
He wants to kick me off the show.
Nah.
I gotta be honest with you, Sean doesn't care because I'll never see this because I'll be doing keys above 12.
You'll need to deal with it as you're getting up to that point. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Those first 2
Did
weeks.
they say what the rotation is? Is it every week that this switches?
We don't even know how many affixes there are yet.
Yeah, they keep introducing new ones.
This is now. I assume it'll be one a week. That's my guess. If I had to guess, so that people have some consistency.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go into that. So if we have 4, and to be fully clear, full transparency here, I think so far all of the Xal'atath bargains have been decent. I jokingly equated this to Afflicted. I do think it's sort of Afflicted coded, but having a mob that appears once that just one person has to dispel, whether it's the healer or your shaman who's running poison cleansing totem or whatever it is, I don't think that's a bad affix. And then everybody gets a little bump of health and crit. Right on. Let's rock and roll. So I think so far all of them have been good.
All right. Moving along, because that was only the first of the Mythic Plus changes. We have an absolute Sean coded change. Sean, tell us about this one.
Yeah, I have been complaining about how hard it is to nut in Mr. Chernascythe since the beta came out, because you had to be a Tauren, a High Mountain Tauren, a Night Elf, a Druid, or an Herbalist with skill of 25 or higher in order to activate the nut in Mr. Chernascythe, which is, for those of you who don't know, that's your skip. You kill a boss, you touch the nut, you can now skip to that point. When you die, you release right there. And that is...
I didn't think it was that bad. You've been pretty fast with the nuts.
It's... but I had to go in and level my herbalism, and I don't normally play herbalism, so going in, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I would be constantly bringing my party with somebody who was nuttable. And so this change completely fixes it. It is now there is no longer an activation required for the depleted. They're actually anima seeds. Sorry, I misspoke. Depleted, and they look like little acorns, little nuts.
They look like little acorns.
They do. So they're a depleted anima seed, and they have removed the requirement to interact with it. So now you will kill a boss, and then they will just insta activate the depleted anima seed. So for the
healer, it's going to be the healer. Everybody else Russian DPS.
You don't have
healer do this and run.
Nobody has to click it. There is no longer an interact required for the seed.
There's no condition on the interact. You still have to click it. The exact note is that they removed all conditions required. So somebody still needs to run and activate it.
It says it no longer has an interact. Oh yeah, then it's the healer.
Yeah, then it's the healer. Everyone else is going to run and do the damage, and the healer's going to.
The healer's going to. Yeah,
I read that as no interact condition meant that it just auto activated. But I see what you're saying. You're saying that it means there's no requirement. Anybody can activate.
Yeah.
So this is good.
There's no restriction on who can.
Anybody cannot now. So you can bring whoever you want to Mr. Chernascythe. But it's going to be the healers. Our healers are going to be our nutters for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's a great change because this. I know they added the ways you could do it, but it is still a restriction that would become prohibitive. You still need, by all accounts, a Tauren, a High Mountain Tauren, a Night Elf, a Druid, an Herbalist, or that's all of them, to activate the skip at the beginning, which you're going to want to do because that's the most efficient pathing to take, and also to activate the opening where I'll do mushrooms and get the benefits from that. So you'll still want those people in there for that, but it's not going to be a deal breaker. You're not going to be like, I'm doing my weekly 10 and I don't have one of those things. You'll just work around it. So great change.
I still think they should add in those with the condition do it faster, but you can still do it if
that would have been a good change.
Yeah. No, I mean like these nuts, because they're skipped and it's so punishing to get sent all the way back to the beginning. I like this change. I just think for the wall, the vine wall, just like nimble fingers, man. Just let somebody nut faster. Moving forward, we've got. Sorry, Lex Ivy.
Those ones
trying so hard.
Those ones.
I held back so many Xal'atath Devour jokes because I respect the fact that we don't have an explicit tag.
I don't know. What is this in reference
to?
For the
audio crew, Lex has just been clamped over her mouth the entire time.
I'm not sure I understand the reference. Why? Did we say something?
No. I just wanted
we'll tell you when you're older, Sean.
I just wanted to let everyone know that I was being respectful for no apparent reason.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Okay. but this is a very intense, extensive note. They went through all of these dungeons and they made major changes. A lot of the abilities that the NPCs could use are not as spammable. They have longer cooldowns in between usage. A lot of abilities just had the damage straight out gutted, so that with this new tank setup and with the new way that they're doing things, you're just going to have less damage in general from repeated abilities and from damage overall. So it's a big post. Again, check out our show notes for it. I'm happy that they did this. They had said as much when they did the tank changes that they were going to see the feedback, see the data, and adjust the dungeons accordingly. This is great. And I think this goes right to what Sean was saying, that what is going to most likely be the Razor's Edge for Mythic Plus is how much you can pull without getting yourself into an untenable situation to get to those highest keys, because eventually people are going to cap out on how much damage they're able to do. But I also think that's going to be scary, because that's once again going to benefit the classes with the uncapped AoE. Please, Blizzard, can we do something about that?
These changes are great. We said it here on the show. I said it anywhere anybody will listen to me, at the drive-through, at the Wendy's, everywhere. The tuning doesn't happen in a bubble. It's not, tanks are tuned. That's it. Good luck. It's everything happen. And this is exactly like we said, they said, we said, anybody who wasn't in full doomer mode knew that this was going to happen. The damage abilities were going to get tuned down, and they did. And it's all stuff that was like crazy. And this podcast is not in the market of picking the meta. We would never deign to do that. However, Prot Warrior got substantial buffs to their damage. And if you look through a lot of these changes, they added the ability to block a lot of these abilities that were doing massive damage to other tanks, which means Prot Warrior will now handle them quite well.
John, I'm really interested in
again,
why
you're not.
It's so random that you would think the Prot Warrior is going to be one of the best tanks, right? Like, that was just coming out of nowhere.
I know it's strange. It's just a feeling I have that they might do well. And more importantly, the Mountain Fame Prot Warrior playstyle loop is a lot of fun, because you're basically just spamming Shield Slam and Thunderclap. You don't have to hit Revenge, because those Thunderclaps are all empowered by the Thane abilities, so they're all Thunder Blasts. So it's this feedback loop of I'm Shield Slamming, I'm Thunder Blasting, I'm Shield Slamming, I'm Thunder Blasting. It's resetting Shield Slam, so I'm Shield Slamming again. So then all of your rage can just get dumped into Ignore Pain and Shield Block. So while you're doing this fun loop of I'm blasting, you're dumping your rage into the abilities that make you tankier. So I don't think it's going to get nerfed, and if anybody from Blizzard listens to this show, ignore all of this. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Go nerf Blood Death Knights. But I think Broad Paladins, if you're a Prot Warrior going into the War Within, I think you're going to have a good time in Season 1. For at least the first half of the season, until things happen.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. Are you going to place your order?
Yeah, can I get a Baconator and with a medium-sized fries and a chocolate frosty?
I would love a bacon. You know what? All right, show is over, folks. I'm getting food. Until next time, may all your hits be crits.